Okay, so with my making of such bold claims recently pertaining to incidents that allegedly occurred within a film studio in Toronto during early 2021, naturally I'm fully aware that I risk being pursued legally. I wish to state now that I am absolutely not afraid whatsoever, and I will always be prepared to argue my case in a court of law. After witnessing in my life every single young female that I care about being exploited, manipulated, abused, or irreparably traumatized by being in relationships with predatory elder men, and that includes the death of my cousin, the psychological trauma incurred by my best friend, the suicide of a female acquaintance, an ex-girlfriend with severe emotional instabilities, and her father being in a relationship with several exceptionally young women before ultimately, at the age of 48, finding himself within a relationship with a 16-year-old child and grooming her for marriage when she turns 18, and lastly, the young woman involved in the film studio incident herself. I know exactly what I stand for, and that is to help in raising the awareness of the inherent dangers presented by elder predatory men, particularly in workplace environments, by exposing their methods in exceptional detail, and also regardless of how these relationships are developing, they are fundamentally imbalanced, have a high capacity for exploitation and abuse, be it not physical, then emotional. Ultimately, I wish to help safeguard teenage girls and young women in their 20s. That is everything that I stand for. That is what I'm passionate about. I really hope that there are people out there who are aware of my videos and will be prepared to support me and my cause. How can I possibly be an ambassador for the safety of young women? How can I possibly justify my maintaining of a vlog series advocating for the protection of females if I allow this incident to go on unaddressed? This happened exactly 3 years ago, so it's now historic, I'm aware of this, but I'm deeply, deeply ashamed for never reporting on it at the time. In truth, I was gaslit. We were all gaslit by the young female involved into not questioning what was happening, but in turn, she herself had been gaslit by this predatory senior colleague into placating us in this way. Morally, ethically, I could not stand by my work if I do not have the courage and the drive to actually put myself here and raise my concerns over what has occurred. And I promise you now, this is an absolute unmitigated horror story. And I know that I have sufficient evidence to argue my case. Even if I do fail in my attempt to have this predator held to account, there's still other issues that need to be addressed, such as micromanagement bordering on bullying, fatigued and overworked employees, inadequately trained employees gravely injuring themselves, colleagues engaging in sexual activity on site, employees breaking health and safety protocol, and lastly, all of this occurred during the most stringent phase of COVID regulations, so sexual contact between employees both inside and outside of work. I know there's at least something here that the studio can be found culpable of contravening. By all accounts, the work environment at this studio was an absolute shitstorm. Now, this is just a brief video for anybody who is subscribed to me, who is wondering whether or not I would be prepared to be legally pursued. Yes, and just to prove that I am serious, I'm gonna re-upload this video very soon, within the next 24 hours, but it's gonna be extended, and within it, I'm gonna include details of pretty much everything that has occurred. Not everything, but most of the salient details, because if this does come to the attention of the studio, then I want them to be able to see that I am good on my word. They definitely know that it happened, so the fact that I am able to quote incidents that happened in such detail, they know that I know. They know that I'm serious, they know that I do have this evidence and I can provide this evidence, so there's going to be no getting out of it. Just because this young woman was above the age of legal consent and above the age in which she is legally considered an adult, what has happened here is clearly morally and ethically wrong, and you know it, I know it, they know it. This is a young female who had literally just entered the industry. She had been there a matter of months. By contrast, this has to be, surely, their most senior employee, their most experienced employee, who has actively jeopardized the fledgling career of this young female. But I mean, ultimately, the stuff that they were doing in and around that studio, yeah, I know that that definitely legally should not be occurring within that studio. I know that as a fact. But again, the evidence that I will present will basically exonerate the young female involved through diminished responsibility, because we can clearly observe that she was not in a good place mentally. Where was human resources? Where the fuck was human resources? That's what I want to know. Whereas this senior employee, elderly man, he has to be their most experienced employee at such an advanced stage in his life, his emotional and psychological development. yeah, he can be held fully accountable for his actions. And that is who I am coming for. Him. Not the young female. She need not be involved. All the studio has to now do is locate this man, whichever studio he is now employed at, because, of course, if you listen to my other videos, he was dismissed, but without exposing the real reason behind his dismissal, the fact that there'd been all this sexual activity, these predatory shenanigans happening, so he was able to walk across town to another independent film studio, so he could potentially, currently, be still active within the film industry, free to potentially exploit other vulnerable young female employees at these other studios. So they need to go track him down, and they need to inform his employers of exactly what happened. He needs to basically just cash his pension, fuck off and die. Okay, so before I begin to run through some of the horrifying details, I wish to quickly relay several brief statements that in effect make the rest of this video redundant, as it virtually already confirms that the two individuals have been engaging in activity that was considered unethical and was a dismissible offence, which, while unfortunately it does implicate the young female involved, ultimately I think anybody with half a brain would be quick to deduce that this was likely the studio's most senior employee actively engaging in activities that would have resulted in the firing of a young woman whose career within the industry was fledgling. It had only started at that studio only months prior to this. He was actively jeopardizing the career of a young woman. Unequivocal fact. And because this man has only advanced in age over the past 3 years, he now has even less to lose in potentially preying upon other young females at various other studios at which he is employed. This man poses a real threat to emotionally vulnerable and inexperienced young female colleagues. So in front of me here I have a text message from the young female in which she states, "We were running around looking for places to make out in secret at work. He was kissing my nipples when we were making out in the toilet. And lastly, I think he's into butt stuff. He just said he'd lick my asshole, but he may need mouthwash afterwards." After entering a committed relationship with this man only 2 weeks after their initial interaction, when questioned by a concerned individual who claimed that this is not right, this is not okay, what is happening here, you shouldn't be doing this, I'm going to call the studio, she responded, "What? Do you want me to lose my job? Don't you care about me?" This right here all but confirms that what had occurred was unethical. This should not have been occurring. However, we were also in our 20s, subsequently also very easy to gaslight, and we were essentially unable to see with clarity until now, 3 years after the fact, just how little we did in our protecting of this young female. Regardless of how difficult she made it for us to do so, we should have done more about this. Furthermore, 2 months after this interaction, when confronted by her ex-boyfriend as to why she should return to him, which was an attempt in vain to get her away from this predatory male that she was with, she responded with, "I'm sorry, I can't be with you. I guess I didn't realize how broken I was until now." This statement is utterly terrifying. Imagine a young woman admitting to you that she is psychologically broken, in essence, extremely vulnerable. Meanwhile, we're simultaneously observing her in a relationship with a man theoretically old enough to be her grandfather who unequivocally preyed upon her. A. How could she not empathize? How was no correlation drawn between what she was saying and what she was doing? B. If you for some reason needed further proof that this young female was not mentally okay, well, here she is admitting it. So, this man, who will be turning 64 years of age on the 10th of March 2024, where is he? Where is he? Is he still working within your fucking industry?